Hi there, it's Mary Charlson here from 5minutemarketing.com. And we're taking a look today at 2020 marketing trends. I've got 10 for you. I'm going to be going through each of these 10, and then we're going to be doing a deeper dive over the course of the next several weeks in the first quarter of 2021, looking at specific companies and examples. But for today, I'm just going to go through these top 10 things that we should be paying attention to guide our marketing efforts in the coming year. So the first one is the customer journey. We need to reevaluate it. 2020 changed everything. From where, what, when, how, and why we buy. Everything got challenged. Many changes. We had e-commerce, we had do-it-yourself, we had delivery, we had curbside pickups. There's a whole movement to do it yourself. All of these things impacted on the customer journey to a certain extent. And there's been many new patterns. A lot of them initially were driven by safety, but now we're seeing, it's still about safety, but over time it starts to become about convenience as well, which turn into patterns of preference. So things you need to take a look at is basically validate each step of that customer journey. Ask yourself, is it still valid? What's true? What is no longer true? What's still needed? Even better yet, what could be taken away rather than added in? Could you improve it? Can you change it in some way? Simplify it. Take a look at your channels for your communication, social media channels, but beyond that into other channels. Are they still valid? Is that where your customers are? And how about your messaging? Does that messaging still resonate given all these other changes? So this is a big one. It's the first one, but it's a big one. Reevaluate that customer journey. The second one is take a look at brands with purpose. Essentially, brands with purpose are going to do better in 2021. We had so much uncertainty, a lot of it's, around emotion and safety. 2020 really challenged us in a lot of ways. And it took an economic toll for many people. So having a purpose that kind of connects to your community and your stakeholders now really resonates and really matters. So, having a commitment to those stakeholders, whether it be your customers, the community that you function in, your employees, your suppliers, something that resonates with all of those people, and having, tying that purpose to what you do into a greater community. Deloitte did a study, and I'm just referencing here for the numbers. 25% of people said that a purpose-driven company shifted their brand perceptions. And this was just recently. And also, most importantly, shifted their buying preferences. So, and it may tie into this whole values thing, but with 2020, which is kind of our stepping into our next marketing trend, but having a purpose is now going to serve your company better. Third one is knowing what your customers value. 2020 caused a lot of people to take stock of what it is that really matters to them, which drove at the core of what are their values. And there's been a lot of shifts along with that reevaluation process. Whether it be around home, work, relationships, the whole questions around diversity, inclusion, social justice. There were so many things that prompted us to check in on our values. And so, the environment is another one in there as well. So, understanding what it is that your customers, your target group, what do they value? And tying that in to your company and your offering and the way you communicate. Here's another interesting stat. 95% of purchases are driven by subconscious urges. And we know that those subconscious urges are tied directly to our values and our emotions and our actions. So if there's no other reason than that, that's a compelling one to consider. What do your customers value? The fourth trend, marketing trend we need to consider is we need to be more human in our marketing. Now, this one has been kind of percolating along for a number of years. In fact, it was one of my 5 trends predictions for 2020. But 2020 kind of put this one on, I would say, steroids for 2021. We were driven online. Interactions, became virtual. There was a lot of digitization, automation, AI. We're craving human connection. And, brands that can tap into that and nurture a connection, albeit right now compromised in somewhat of a digitized online manner, but, connecting in an authentic way, in a human way, and showing maybe the imperfect side of your business, whether that be being fun, being, more informal, so showing us some behind the scenes, showing some stuff that isn't going so well, right? Don't give us the sanitized Instagram version of yourself. Be real, be like us. So this is, as I said, a trend that was already largely underway in 2020, but I would say in 2021, it's on steroids. Trend number 5, brand storytelling and empathy will be key. Now, brand storytelling has been important ever since we invented brands, right? A brand that has a founder story or a story, a reason, a purpose for being has always been something compelling to customers. And it's that whole, kind of, but tying it now into 2021 with this notion of empathy and the storytelling that oozes empathy. Maybe it's because we've been deprived from so much empathy and connection, it feels, when we can't kind of connect with other people in a physical way. Or maybe it's, just being very cognizant of what's happened politically, and sort of so much just the lack of empathy in so many ways makes customers crave it even more into 2021. And so I think, let that empathy drive your storytelling efforts. And, it'll always be important, but that is something which is going to help you stand up more. When we go into deeper dives, I'll be looking at some examples on these. Trend number 6 is communications will need to be personalized and consistent. Now, this is maybe nothing new, but I think it deserves some additional attention as we go into 2021. The pandemic tested our loyalties. There was a lot of brand shifting. Frankly, there continue to be a lot of brand shifting. The best brands focused in on communications and having touch points and contacts. And those are the ones that are going to fare much better than the ones that didn't do that as we're coming into and going forward into 2021. So, personalized email, informed targeting, and I use that word informed, not just mass targeting, but being smart about it, recognizing where in the customer journey a person is and sending appropriate communications to them. Having communication touch points that are consistent and nurtured, and not always selling. Customer touch points can just be touch points. Brand awareness, top of mind, telling that backstory, having empathy. All of these things go into kind of building that larger funnel of, introduce you and then know, like, trust as we come down that decision journey. And those consistent communications that are personalized, I think, will really matter. Trend number 7, opportunity for collaboration and cross-industry partnerships. This is a really interesting one because the pandemic really drove us to get creative with a lot of experimentation. Essentially, there was a ton of unmet market needs that companies were sort of struggling to find opportunity in. And often that took them into collaborations and partnerships. For the really disruptive companies, that took them outside of their industry. And what they were forced to do, sometimes out of survival, then became something that drove completely new opportunities. I said at the beginning of the pandemic that there will be unmet market opportunities, which will define the survival, as well as the launching of new companies over the next 6 to 10 months. And that's exactly what we have seen. But it's this interesting collaboration and partnership across industries, which I think is a really interesting one. And, finding opportunity in it. I think there's still much opportunity out there as our needs continue to evolve. We're not through this thing yet, right? So as it continues to evolve, there will be unmet market needs. Trend number 8, we need to leverage digital tools even more. Now, 2020 put us online big time. Even the laggards, right? The people who were way behind on the curve in terms of getting online or getting, on the Zoom calls or whatever it might be. Even those people were sort of forced to get with the program. And so we have this mass online comfort level now in the digital space. And, the traditional playbook in a kind of a crisis like this would be kind of one of two things. It would be to kind of retrench and kind of, cut dollars and expenditures, or it would be to spend ahead of the demand and capture market share in the interim. The interesting thing is that this isn't like a traditional kind of market disruption or economic recession. This is different, and so it's forcing this, what I call, digital tools, and being cognizant of how to use them in terms of being agile and utilizing digital channels, because that's where we are, and understanding there's as those current needs unfold, that we can use digital channels to see them coming and to also respond to it. And so, social listening on social media. So what we call that is observing, watching, seeing comments, likes, shares, various things that trend. Also being very cognizant of data, digital insights, and being very timely and in the moment for responding to an unmet need at that particular moment. That's where people are going to get advantage. And so it's a different playbook than we've traditionally seen in the past. Trend number 9, e-commerce will continue to accelerate. You're probably going, yeah, Mary, that's an obvious one. But I think it's the fact that it's now so entrenched. It's part of our lifestyle. It's part of the norm. And so the whole Amazon's, Shopify, buying direct on Facebook and Instagram, we're certainly not going to be rolling the playbook back. We're comfortable with this. We've now seen the convenience with it. It's not to say we're not going to go and shop at brick and mortar locations, but we have to be very much aware that, this trend, which is already underway, basically got accelerated by easily 5 years in terms of its mass acceptance, and it will continue to expand and roll forward in 2021. It's not too late to get on board if you've missed the boat to date, but you'd better get with it pretty quick if that's the case, and if not, expanding it. The final trend number 10, and this is kind of interesting in that it's kind of timely after recent events in the US. Trend number 10 is social advocacy, diversity, and inclusion will be important. Now, 2020 taught us the importance of authenticity around a lot of these things. We saw flashpoints around the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. We saw some brands jump on board, maybe not so much with, good meaning, good intentions, but not really being able to take ownership of it from an authentic standpoint. And they got called out for it. We also saw brands that sort of jumped onto the whole, we care, we're all in this, this boat together kind of thing with their email communication at the beginning of the pandemic. But it was kind of empty promises on some of the companies. And here's the thing, the brands where it was a good match in terms of their purpose, their values, and well aligned with who their target audience was, when they took a stand, the people who liked them love them even more. And we're going to see that become even more important rolling into 2021. So it's not for the faint of heart to take a stand, because as soon as you do, the people who love you more, but the people who maybe don't agree with that, you may lose them. But we know from past experience that this can actually help a lot of brands solidify the people who are really at the core of their audience. So that's my 10th one. Social advocacy, diversity, and inclusion will now matter even more. And I think it's kind of a great way to kind of close out our thoughts on this and reflect on those 10. So I look forward to diving deeper into these in the coming weeks. I'll be doing it over the first quarter, Q1 of 2021. And we'll be looking deeper into each one, looking at examples, and then specific things about what it is that you can do to leverage this in your business. So thanks for being here. Mary Charleson, 5minutemarketing.com. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do it. And also come on over and join me at 5minutemarketing.com, where I publish regular insights on my blog, and sign up for my e-newsletter. That's the inner circle. That's where you get stuff like this at the first time I put it out there. Okay, so thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next video.